I wish I could forget the taste of the wine I was drinking that night. Merlot, 2007. Sharp, bitter, with a slow burn that matched the one in my chest as I watched my wife walk into our anniversary dinner, hand in hand with another man. Not a friend. Not a business associate. A tall, smug son of a bastard with tailored sleeves rolled just enough to show off his gym-forged arms in a Rolex I probably paid for indirectly. And the worst part? She wasn't ashamed. No. Madison looked right at me and smirked, like this was her moment. He's everything you could never be: power, passion, and presence, she said with venomous elegance, her voice slicing through the air like piano wire. Accept it or vanish. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She delivered the betrayal with champagne on her breath and a diamond around her neck that I put there. I think the room went silent. I'm not sure. My ears rang. My world narrowed. I didn't respond. I just stood up, straightened my jacket, left the cash for the dinner neither of us would touch, and walked out. Out of that restaurant. Out of that life. Out of every damn thing I'd built for the two of us over 12 miserable years. I vanished. Literally. No goodbye. No divorce papers. No warning. I drained every account she didn't know about, sold the company I co-founded before our marriage, and slipped off the radar. I was done being Mr. Madison Taylor. I burned him down to ashes. For the next decade, I disappeared from the world without leaving a trace. No calls. No emails. No social media. Let them think I was dead. It was better than admitting I had been nothing to the woman I built my life around. But I didn't crawl into a cave. I transformed. I became someone new. New name. New empire. From a broken man with a shattered heart to a silent storm in a tailored suit. I made my millions, no, tens of millions, quietly. Legally. Ruthlessly. And then, when I was ready, I came back. Not to forgive. Not to beg. Not even to reclaim what was mine. I returned with a plan. Madison had no idea the man she humiliated in front of strangers would someday own the very hotel where she now hosted charity galas with her new husband. That man, Logan Pierce. I made sure their invites went through my assistant. I watched them clink glasses, smile for the cameras, and talk about success while they stood on the foundation of the man they thought was long gone. Me. Until the night I saw something that changed everything. I hadn't planned to confront her yet. That night, I was just watching from the penthouse level, a silent king overlooking his stolen kingdom. But then she walked into the service corridor near the kitchens alone. I followed, staying in the shadows like a ghost. That's when I saw it. She wasn't calling her husband. She was whispering into her phone, her voice frantic. No, not tonight. I told you, Logan can't know. Meet me after the speech. And for God's sake, don't wear that chain, the one I gave him. I don't want reminders. Him? She wasn't cheating on me anymore. She was cheating on the man she cheated with. And that was the moment I realized. Madison wasn't just a liar. She was a black hole in heels. Every man that got close to her disappeared, his dignity, his wallet, his soul, gone. But I wasn't a man anymore. I was a weapon. This wasn't about heartbreak now. This was war. And it all started that night, when the woman I once loved looked me in the eye and said, "He's everything you could never be." That's where she was wrong. Because now, I was everything. And she had no idea what was coming. I thought the worst was behind me. But the truth? That night, the dinner, the insult, the smirk, was just her opening act. The real betrayal came later. Piece by piece, like glass in my shoe, invisible until it bled. I spent weeks watching her from the shadows. Not like a stalker, more like a ghost with unfinished business. I had access to everything. Her schedule, her phone records, even her private messages. Money gets you doors. Silence lets you walk through them unnoticed. What I discovered wasn't just infidelity. It was architecture. Madison had been building this betrayal for years. I went back through old receipts, hidden emails, and even surveillance I had installed before I vanished, cameras she never found. It turned out the man she brought to that dinner, Logan Pierce, wasn't just a new fling. They'd been seeing each other for over 18 months before that night, during our vacations, our therapy sessions, while I was busy fighting for a promotion to support her boutique startup. Hell, I remember once, she told me she was taking a solo self-care retreat to Palm Springs. Even made me pack her bags. Guess who paid for the luxury suite Logan was already checked into? They made a mockery out of my loyalty. But what cut deeper was the pattern. Logan wasn't her first. There were others. One of them, Daniel Whitaker, was a client of mine. Another, a bartender from our country club. Even a delivery guy who sent her flowers addressed to him. I remembered asking her, "Who's M?" She said it was a nickname from her college days. Lie. Everything was a lie. And it wasn't just the cheating. It was the way she twisted the truth until I didn't know up from down. Every time I felt something was off, she gaslit me. "Oh please, Jason, not this again. Maybe you should talk to someone. Just because you're insecure doesn't mean I'm doing anything wrong." God, she made me question my own instincts. But the evidence was undeniable now. I had photos, screenshots, audio. One recording still plays in my head like a nightmare. Her voice, soft and mocking. "He thinks he's clever. But Jason's always been a little puppy in a man's body. Sweet, clueless, and easy to train. I should have been angry. But I wasn't. I was cold. Still. Like the moment before an avalanche. Because now I knew what I was dealing with, not a wife, but a manipulator with a taste for chaos. I remember watching one video of her and Logan in the backseat of a limo, 2 nights before she told me she wanted a break. She wasn't wearing her wedding ring. She never wore it around him. And when he kissed her neck, she giggled and whispered, "He's fading. Soon, I'll have everything. Everything. My home. My savings. My company." I had been set up. Systematically. She had timed my burnout, encouraged my sabbatical, and kept me distracted while she dug her claws into everything with my name on it. And I had no one to blame but myself for not seeing it sooner. But now I had the truth. And I wasn't going to run from it. I was going to weaponize it. She thought I disappeared because I was weak, because I couldn't handle the humiliation. But what she didn't know, couldn't possibly fathom, was that I had spent 10 years turning that humiliation into fuel. I had built a machine, and she was standing directly in its path that I didn't knock. The door to her office was open, the same one I had paid to renovate back when she was finding herself as an interior design consultant. It was still painted in that soft dove gray she loved, with the custom gold handles I picked out before I realized those handles would one day swing open to her betrayal. She looked up when I entered. She didn't recognize me at first. To be fair, I wasn't the man she knew. Gone was the tired, overworked, eager-to-please husband who used to beg for her attention. Now I wore a black suit like armor. My beard was trimmed, my posture straight. And my eyes, they didn't ask questions anymore. They demanded answers. "Jason." Her voice was barely more than a whisper. She blinked, then blinked again. "Surprised to see me?" I asked, closing the door behind me. I thought you were dead." I stepped closer. "Gone forever? That's what you wanted, right?" Madison stood up slowly, smoothing her blouse like it mattered. "Jason, look, I don't know what you think you saw, or heard, or—" "You brought your lover to our anniversary dinner," I said calmly. "That's not a misunderstanding, Madison. That's a statement." She hesitated, then did what she always did when cornered. She turned into the coldest version of herself. "You abandoned me," she snapped. "You disappeared without a word. You think you can just walk back in and out?" No. I held up a hand. "You don't get to rewrite history. I walked away after you humiliated me in public. After you grabbed that bastard's hand like I was the waiter." Madison crossed her arms, but her voice cracked slightly. "Things weren't working between us. You were distant, obsessed with work. Logan, he made me feel alive again." "Right," I said, letting the bile rise just enough to flavor my words. "Because nothing says rebirth like screwing the guy I once mentored at a charity dinner." Her jaw twitched. She didn't deny it. "You think Logan was the first?" I continued. "I know about Daniel, the bartender. Even that delivery guy, Josh, was it?" Silence. Just for a beat. Then she gave me that same condescending smirk I remembered from the restaurant. "Congratulations," she said. "You finally grew a spine." "I also grew a bank account," I replied. "The hotel you held at gala in last month?" "Mine." "The property management firm Logan's been negotiating with?" "Mine." "The publishing house that denied your proposal this week?" "Guess who owns 51%? Her smirk cracked. "I disappeared, Madison, not because I was weak. I vanished because I needed time to become something you can't manipulate. And now, I'm not here for revenge. I'm here to watch you." "To watch me?" "What?" "Fall," I said. With style. She tried to slap me. She really did. Her hand came flying up like we were on some soap opera, but I caught her wrist midair and held it, not with violence, but with finality. "That won't work anymore," I said softly. "You don't get to control the narrative." Then I leaned in, just enough so only she could hear me. "You thought you were playing chess. But sweetheart, you're just one of the pieces." I dropped her wrist and turned to leave. And as I opened the door, I saw it in her eyes, not fear, not regret, but something worse, panic. Because for the first time, Madison realized she had no idea what was coming next. The drive home, if I could call it that, was silent. I wasn't going back to a house filled with memories, shared laughter, or framed photos of fake smiles. No, I lived in a high-rise penthouse now. No personal touches. No warmth. Just cold steel, black marble, and the kind of view that made people think you'd made it. But success was sterile. And silence, brutal. I poured a drink, neat, and stood by the window, watching the city flicker below like it was mocking me. The confrontation had ended, but the war inside me had only just begun. At first, it was rage. Not the kind that explodes in fists and shouting, but the kind that simmers, deep, slow, patient. The kind that rewrites your heartbeat. How many nights had I laid awake wondering if I wasn't enough? If I worked too much, listened too little, loved too hard, or not hard enough? She made me feel like I was the problem. And God help me, I believed it. She was that good, gaslighting me with such delicate precision, I thought I was lucky to have her. Now I saw it all for what it was, a well-rehearsed act. Every "I love you" had an expiration date. Every kiss was a diversion. Every intimate moment was a transaction. That realization didn't break me. It unchained me. I started replaying it all, backward, like a film reel cutting in reverse. The way she'd pull away when I touched her in bed, claiming she was tired. How she'd spend more time with girls from Pilates than with me on weekends. The sudden interest in self-care weekends and business brunches that I never questioned. I was such a damn fool. But underneath the anger, another emotion clawed its way in. Grief. Not just for the marriage, but for the man I used to be. I missed him, that hopeful version of myself who believed in promises, who thought love could survive the storms. That man was gone now. He didn't survive the night she walked into our anniversary dinner holding another man's hand like I never existed. And then came the sadness. Not for myself, but for the years wasted. The chances I passed up, the places I didn't go, the friends I pushed away to prioritize her. She didn't just cheat on me with another man. She cheated me out of my own life. That night, as I sat in that dark room, the drink untouched, I finally cried. Not loudly. Just a single tear. But it was the first honest emotion I'd let surface in a decade. And after it fell, something in me shifted. Acceptance. The worst had already happened. The betrayal. The humiliation. The years lost. I had nothing left to fear. From this point on, every step I took would be mine alone. I wouldn't let her infect another corner of my mind. I wouldn't let Logan, or whichever poor soul she cheated with next, occupy a second of my thoughts. They were parasites. And I was done being the host. But I also knew this. I wasn't going to just move on quietly. No. I'd built an empire. I had power. And now, I had purpose. Because while pain fades, lessons burn permanent. And I had one final lesson to deliver, not just for Madison, but for any man out there questioning his worth because of a woman who plays him like a puppet. You don't recover by begging. You recover by rising. The next morning, I stood in front of the mirror and barely recognized the man staring back. Not because of the tailored shirt or the watch worth more than my first car, but because of the calm behind my eyes. There was no rage, no panic, just decision. I had already won in silence. But now, I needed to decide what kind of victory I wanted, one that made headlines or one that left scars. Destroying Madison publicly would have been easy. A few leaked photos. A recording here and there. The media would tear her apart. She was, after all, a socialite now. Logan's wife. The face of their perfect little empire. But I didn't want a scandal. I wanted closure. And that meant going back to where it all began. The house. Not the penthouse I lived in now, the house we once shared. The one she insisted on keeping during the separation. The one filled with my books, my art, and probably still the coffee mug that said, "Best Husband," which she gave me right before sleeping with Logan for the first time. I pulled up to the driveway mid-afternoon, knowing she'd be out. Her calendar was still synced to the old smart system, a small oversight in a web of arrogance. Stepping inside, it was like walking into a museum of lies. Nothing had changed. Same floral curtains. Same scent of vanilla candles. Same framed photos of us smiling through dead eyes. I didn't come to steal. I came to erase. One by one, I packed up everything that was mine. My father's watch from the top drawer. My old journals from the attic. Even the dusty guitar she once said was cluttering the corner, the same guitar I wrote a song for her on during our engagement. I left the rest. The memories. The pain. the ghost of the man she destroyed. Before I left, I did one last thing. I sat at the kitchen table, the same place she once cried when I got her the wrong smoothie, and wrote a letter. Not for her. For Logan. Logan, you never stole my wife. She was never yours to steal. You got her body. I got the truth. You think you've won. You haven't. You'll learn, just like I did, that nothing she touches stays whole for long. Her affection is conditional. Her loyalty? A joke. And when it happens, when you catch her whispering to someone else, saying he makes her feel alive again, remember this letter. Because by then, it'll be too late. Jason. I left the note in Logan's office drawer, tucked between contracts I knew he never read. Then I walked out and never looked back. Driving away, I realized something strange. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't broken. I was free. The decision was made. No revenge. No messy court battles. I didn't need her money or her apology. She wanted me gone. So I gave her what she asked for. But now, I was back, not to grovel, not to fight, but to live. And as for Madison, she could keep the lies. I'd take the peace. Peace is a funny thing. You think it comes with silence, distance, maybe even forgiveness. But for me, peace came the moment I saw Logan's expression at the charity banquet 2 weeks later. He stood near the open bar, sipping something brown, with a tension in his shoulders he couldn't disguise, not even with his expensive tux and forced smile. Madison was beside him, of course, draped in red, loud and smug, like she always was when cameras were nearby. But her eyes were scanning the room. Searching. Nervous. Good. I didn't need to be seen to make noise. I'd made a quiet move, one that would hit harder than public humiliation ever could. A private audit. A minor whisper to one of Logan's investors. A suggestion to dig into discrepancies in their shared charity accounts, the same ones Madison used to launder her personal vacations as research trips. Nothing illegal. Yet. But enough to get board members whispering. Enough to make Logan sweat. I stood in the shadows, behind the velvet curtain near the back entrance, watching them unravel. That's when she spotted me. Her eyes locked with mine like she'd seen a ghost. I didn't smile. Didn't blink. Just raised my glass, a silent toast to everything she threw away. She excused herself from Logan, crossed the room like a hurricane in heels, and slipped through the curtain, slamming into me in the hallway. "What are you doing here?" she hissed. "Enjoying the view," I said. "Your kingdom's starting to wobble." She scoffed. "Still obsessed? I see. What? Couldn't stay away from the woman who broke you?" "I'm not here for you," I replied. "I'm here to watch gravity do its job." Her expression faltered. "Logan's in trouble," I continued. "And he doesn't even know where the leak is coming from yet. But don't worry. I'll give him time. Maybe he'll figure it out before the board votes." "You wouldn't dare." I leaned in close. "You have no idea what I dare anymore." She laughed. It was forced and brittle. "You're pathetic. Still crawling around in the dark, thinking you're some kind of avenger. You left, Jason. You quit. And now you want back in like some tragic ex-husband with a grudge?" "No," I said, voice calm, almost gentle. "I just want you to experience what it feels like when someone strips away everything you built. Not to punish you, just to balance the scales." She blinked, and for a flicker of a second, I saw it fear. Not because I was dangerous, but because I no longer cared about winning her back. That made me unpredictable. I turned to walk away, but her voice followed me like poison. "You're still that same lonely little man, Jason. Just hiding behind money and suits now." I stopped, looked back. "Maybe," I said, "but lonely beats being with a parasite who feeds on attention and lies." Then I left. That night, as the banquet died down and the reporters packed up, I sat on a rooftop nearby, sipping bourbon under the stars. Alone, but not broken. I had returned. Not for vengeance. Not even for justice. I came back to reclaim myself. And I was getting stronger every day that I wasn't looking for her that day. I was at the pier. Sunday morning, sun barely up, ocean still asleep. It was one of the few places left untouched by the madness of my old life, a place where I used to go to clear my head when everything felt like static. And then I heard her voice. Not Madison's, but Elise's. My sister. The only one who stayed when I disappeared. She hadn't known where I went, but she kept the messages coming. Voicemails. Letters. Birthdays missed, but not forgotten. She was sitting on the bench by the rail, throwing breadcrumbs at birds like we used to do as kids. I almost walked past her. But something in me shifted. I hadn't talked to her in 10 years. Not because I didn't want to, but because I couldn't face the shame, the embarrassment, the failure. But Elise? She stood up and hugged me before I even said her name. Held on like I hadn't been gone for a decade. Still feeding pigeons? I murmured into her hair. Still feeding hope, she whispered back. We sat, silence growing soft between us. Then, without judgment, she asked, so, why now? I told her everything. Not the business side, not the empire I'd built, or the silent war I was waging. That didn't matter here. I told her about Madison, the affair, the betrayal, the dinner. When I got to the part where Madison brought Logan to our anniversary, Elise didn't even blink. I always knew something was off with her, she said. She looked at you like you were furniture. Expensive, useful, but never essential. That hit harder than I expected. She didn't destroy you, Jason, she continued. She just exposed the parts of you that weren't meant to survive. I sat with that for a moment. She taught me to question everything I said. Every laugh, every kiss, every word. I keep thinking back, wondering when the switch flipped. Elise looked out at the sea. You don't need the exact moment, just the truth. And you already have it. Later that day, I drove past the church where Madison and I had gotten married. It was a quiet street now. The rose bushes by the entrance were gone, and the stained glass windows were dull with dust. I remembered standing there in my suit, heart pounding, hands sweating, believing I was about to start a forever, not realizing I was about to sign away a piece of my soul. I parked, walked up to the doors, and sat on the same steps where we had taken photos. And I let the memories come, not to haunt me, but to release them, one by one. Our honeymoon in Cabo, where she spent more time posting pictures than looking at me. The night she said, I'm proud of you, but didn't know what project I was even working on. The birthday when she forgot until noon and blamed it on stress. They weren't just red flags. They were neon signs. And I had driven right through them. I stayed until sunset. By the time I stood up, I wasn't carrying the past anymore. It was behind me now, like an echo fading into silence. All that remained was one final chapter. And it was time to write the ending on my terms. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday. A crisp white envelope with gold trim and calligraphy that screamed fake elegance, Madison's signature aesthetic. It was for a gala, of course. Some event for women in power, hosted by her and Logan, sponsored by a brand she probably bullied into participation. What made it interesting wasn't the event itself. It was the guest list. My name was on it. Jason Cole. No alias. No initials. Full name, front and center, as if she was daring me to show up, or warning me not to. I smiled as I placed it on the mahogany desk in my office, next to the final folder. The folder. Inside were documents, timelines, photographs, financial reports, receipts, a detailed map of Madison's manipulation, deception, and layered betrayals. But not just against me. Against Logan. Against business partners. Against charity boards. Turns out, her hunger for control had bled into every inch of her life. She forged signatures, redirected donations, even funneled money through ghost vendors, all under the guise of expanding her brand. It was enough to ruin her 10 times over. But I wasn't going to publish it. Not yet. No, I had one last thing to do. I walked into the gala unannounced, dressed in black, calm as a shadow. No security check. The guards recognized me. Money has that effect. I nodded, passed them by, and slipped into the ballroom just as the lights dimmed for the opening speech. There she was, Madison Pierce. Hair curled like a crown, dress painted onto her skin, smile sharp enough to draw blood. And Logan beside her, looking every bit the polished puppet. As she stepped up to the microphone, I stood quietly at the back, watching. No intention to stop her. I wanted her to speak. I wanted to see how many lies she could stack before the whole thing came crashing down. But as she spoke about integrity and building a future for women, a wave of detachment washed over me. She was irrelevant now. Her voice didn't cut anymore. Her power was paper-thin. I waited until the speech ended, until the room scattered into clinking glasses and murmured praise. Then, as Madison stepped off the stage, she caught sight of me. Her face froze. I gave her a polite nod and handed her an envelope. Inside was the folder. Everything. She didn't even open it. Not there. She just stared at me like she'd seen her own reflection crack. I'm not here to ruin you, I said. I'm here to show you what you are. Her lips parted. No sound. I leaned in. You always said I was weak. That I vanished because I couldn't handle you. The truth is, I vanished so I wouldn't become you. She laughed nervously. And now what? You're the moral compass. No, I said. I'm the mirror. You're welcome to look. Or not. Then I turned and left. No drama. No speech, no fire. I didn't need to destroy her. She'd already done that on her own. All I did was give her the chance to watch herself fall. Back in my apartment that night, I opened the window and breathed in the city, not as a man escaping a nightmare, but as a man finally awake. I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the survivor. And if I could speak to any man who's standing in the middle of his storm, wondering if he'll make it through, here's my advice. Disappear if you must. But when you come back untouchable.